Everyman Podcast.
Luke, I am your father.
I was trying to go deep, as deep as I could go. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get a
Deeper.
little deeper. How does that
Deeper.
feel, baby? Lower. Daryl Campbell Jr. How are you, my brother?
Oh, working like a boss, working as best as I can. I'm feeling great, man.
That's great.
Awesome. Excited. Excited about Zac.
Excited
Yeah.
about our guest today. We got a burner here for you. This was an awesome episode. Great interview with our friend Zac Rossi. Zac is a young man that we met. He's a production team member for the Dream Theater crew, and he was the guy that kind of got us around and made sure that we were in the places where we were supposed to be, so we could do our interview with Mike Mangini in the archives. And Zac really impressed us with he's a charming guy. He's funny. He was coordinating with the fans, and we saw what kind of he had a light to him that we both, Daryl and I picked up on, and we started to talk with him a little bit when we were waiting for the Dream Theater guys to come around, and he was making us laugh, and we were having a great time. He was telling us stories, on the road stories and stories about the fans, and just he's a hilarious dude, and he's worked with some really incredible artists. He's been on tour with Luke Bryan. He's been on the road with Justin Timberlake. He did 8 months. All over Europe, all over the United States with Justin Timberlake. He talks about that, which is a really cool story towards the end of the podcast. And of course, Dream Theater, and he's been out on the road with Dream Theater for the Distance Over Time tour, which was like February to May. And then they had some time off, and now he's getting ready to head back out on the road with Dream Theater over to Europe. So he gave us, people don't really, I didn't really understand what all goes into a show until I started hanging around these concerts, beforehand and afterwards. And he really gives you a great understanding of all that hard work that goes into what it takes to put on a production of that caliber. So if you have interest in lighting or video or production, or how to get into the music business on the production end, and maybe you're a sound engineer and you want to work your way in and figure out how to get in, Zac gives you the keys to that in this episode. He tells you what it takes from being at the right place, being there at the right time, to who you need to talk to, and how to get into it. He's absolutely the definition of an everyman. He's on his grind, and there's not much more to say. I mean, he's an absolute everyman, and we're happy to have him on. So with that being said, my bro, let's kick it to our interview with Mr. Zac Rossi. Ladies and gentlemen, today on the Everyman Podcast, we have a very special guest, friend of the show. This is a gentleman we met on our field trip to the Dream Theater tour stop this year at the Tower Theater in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. And we met a young man who is part of the Dream Theater team who impressed us with his charisma and his professionalism and how well he carried himself. And then we fell for him after the show when he was sitting around and joking with us and telling us a little bit about his story. And we just knew that this was an everyman, and this was somebody that we needed to get on the show. So I'd like to introduce to you all Mr. Zac Rossi.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man. How you doing, bud? Happy to have you.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for letting me be a part of the podcast.
Absolutely. Like I said, man, we really enjoyed getting to hang out with you at the backstage at the Tower Theater.
You guys are great. It was fun night.
Oh, dude, it was a blast. I mean, but we'll talk about the show, and we'll spend time talking about Dream Theater. But first, I want to talk about you. So tell us where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
So I was born and raised in Saratoga Springs, New York. So that's upstate New York for you guys playing the home game. Lived there for about 24 years. Went to college at Oneonta State in Oneonta, New York. Music industry, music performance minor. And I moved to Nashville in 2012 and almost immediately got on the road. And I've been touring for the past 7 years with different country acts. Did my first pop tour last year, and right now I'm doing the Dream Theater tour.
Sweet.
So you got up and moved to Nashville. What was the deciding factor for that? What made you do that move?
It honestly, so the long and short of it is, it was kind of one of those like quarter life crisis decisions. I was turning 25, and I knew that there was something more out there for me, and if I didn't, kind of take a chance or a risk anywhere, I was going to regret that. So I literally kind of, behind a lot of friends and family's backs, I went down to Nashville by myself to try to find a place to live. Found that I met a family that had a house that had a spare room in it, and then drove back. Told my family, "Hey guys, moving to Nashville in 2 weeks. See you later." And then I packed whatever I could in my car. Had no job, no nothing, and just drove down there on a wing and a prayer.
Sweet, bro.
That's the everyman way.
Every man
yeah.
way.
One of the common threads, Zach, that I've come across on these people that we identify as everyman candidates is that you've got to be willing to sometimes get up and go. And whether that's get up and drive a couple hundred miles for a new job, or get up and move your life, almost 1,000 miles south to a completely new place for an opportunity. Half the battle is being in the right place.
Half the battle is being in the right place, but it's also a thing with timing, because I had actually visited Nashville in 2010, but it felt like I wasn't ready to go yet. There were some other things that were kind of, in place in New York still. And then once all those fell apart, it was kind of like, okay, now you have to do this. It's either, you step through this door, go down this path, or you just start, you kind of just stay where you are and not really explore the other option.
Sweet.
And when you're young, you have that ability to take those risks, and go out and uproot to Nashville. That's something that you want to do when you're younger and you have the opportunity before you make decisions to settle somewhere and set down
but
some roots.
it also felt right too, because I actually was thinking about doing the move to LA initially, but it was too far, and I just felt like there was something kind of missing. But when I visited Nashville, there was this a gut feeling that this was the place to be. But like I said, it wasn't the right time yet.
Right.
So timing was everything.
So now, when you relocated to Nashville, you're a musician, right?
Yes.
So you play. Did you move down there thinking that you were going to be a musician, or did you move down there with the idea that you were going to get involved in live events and touring?
So I wanted to get involved in whatever I could, because the way I kind of look at things is it's always nice to have your hand in different endeavors. So that way you keep yourself busy, and it's also kind of a good way to make yourself well-rounded and also more marketable. So I was open to whatever opportunity or opportunities were available.
That's that everyman way, man. You got to be a 5-tool player. You that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Hey, did you hit up the draft while you were in Nashville?
No, so we were actually out of town for it, but I had a bunch of friends that were there. And yeah, unfortunately, I missed it, but it would have been very cool to check that out.
Yeah, dude. Nashville is a fun and happening town. I love it. Lots of
It was crazy. It was crazy that weekend in town, because they had not only the draft, but the marathon was going on. So it was just like, it was a madhouse.
Yeah, it was a madhouse.
We did on one of our earlier episodes in the archives available on our SoundCloud page. We covered Daryl's involvement with the NFL draft, and it sounds like a real production. And coming from a music background myself, obviously, someone like you would really, I'm sure you would love to see all the behind the scenes of a production of that scale. Because once you get into that side of the music business, I fell in love with that just almost as much as the performance side. Getting to there's a certain satisfaction you get from getting to a location early, setting up a show from the ground up. It's an empty stage, and then at the end of the night, 11 o'clock at night, when those people are at their highest point and everybody's smiling, and you did that. Whether you're the performer, and I do a festival with some of my colleagues, and it's always the most satisfying thing, because I get to perform at it and set it up and do the lights, and it's like it's like you're giving this gift to people. So is that, do you find that experience also when you're putting a show together?
Yeah, and what's cool about that is that can take a bad day and make that a great day,
Mhm.
because which every day is not the same. You get good days, you get bad days. Certain situations come up, but you know, I'll never forget a couple of years ago, when I was working for Luke Bryan. I kind of had this. It was like an off day. Didn't get a lot of sleep. We were in Florida. It was hot. It was sweaty. Everything. And there was this little girl. She had Down syndrome, and I was working on stage, and she kept just kind of waving at me, and I would wave back to her, and she was just having the time of her life. She had the cowboy boots on. She was dancing, had a Luke Bryan T-shirt on, and everything. Well, I gave her the set list from our opening act, and I went down to personally hand it to her, and just say hi to her mom or whatever. And she just lit up. She was so excited. And she was like, "Hey, do you want to be friends?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's be friends." Like, absolutely. And what's funny is we've maintained that friendship every time we come to like the West Palm area of Florida. So it's really cool to be able to not only give people that experience, but also if you come away with something more from that, like a really cool friendship, it makes things just that much cooler.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is, like, because you're contributing to somebody's emotional well-being, and
Oh yeah.
and you can, and people, you can overanalyze it, or maybe I'm overanalyzing it myself, but we are all passionate about music, and Daryl had never seen Dream Theater, and
Oh, yeah.
when I took him to that show, you should have seen him after. I mean, you did see him after the show, but I mean, like, immediately after the show, like the final note. I mean, he's like, he was glowing because like of that,
Dude,
and we'll, and like I said,
amazing.
we'll talk about them as a band, but that production that you're a part of and you help put together. I mean, I'm looking around, there's grown men crying, like I'm half crying. I got my boys with me. Everybody's pumped up. We had a great interview. Like the whole thing, man, it's something that you like, you did something when you go to bed on that bus at night. It's not like you're pissing in the wind, for lack of a better term. You're really, when you leave, people are going to remember, like, oh yeah, man, that Distance Over Time tour, I'll never forget that show. Because I think about concerts that I saw when I was 18, when I was 17, and it's the same that I do today. So I think that's a part of the experience that people kind of discount, and I'm glad that you're able to appreciate that, and that you're even more importantly, while you're in it, you realize that you have that ability to connect with people, and you can connect with these people that you wouldn't normally do. And that's one of the things I love about the podcast, is like, you're a perfect example of that, is somebody that you meet along the way, and you exchange ideas, and then you build a stronger network for yourself. And now you've added her to your network. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah, it's great, man. And that's one of the really cool things about touring, because you meet these people and some become friends and some become family. Like, I got a group of friends that live up in Calgary, and they're like family. And they actually all came to
Great wrestling
visit
town.
Nashville.
Shout out to the Hearts. Shout out to Bret Hart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's a national hero up there. It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. And God rest Owen Hart as well, man. That was
Rest in peace. Yep. Just
rest in peace. Absolutely.
I think that was just 20 years ago last week, which is crazy.
Jeez.
Dude, I remember watching that pay-per-view.
Yeah,
and that was
the cutout. Yep.
Oh
yeah,
man, that was tough.
That was tough. But yeah, Calgary, beautiful town.
Yeah, love Calgary, but like, I actually met some friends up there that had become like an extended family, and we keep in touch. And whenever I go up there or they come to to Nashville, it's just we always pick up where we left off, and it's like I said, it's just very cool to have this network where it's not just confined to one state or one city per se. It's cities, it's countries, it's a whole experience. And that's kind of like, that's one of the things that I sort of find joy in when when we kind of go from city to city, is when you just sort of, by some fateful design, you make friends with somebody, and then like a casual conversation becomes this lifelong friendship. Love that stuff.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
And I know I've met, I mean, the same way I met you, man. I have a lot of friends in the industry, and every time I go see my friends when they're coming through the Philadelphia area, they have somebody new on their crew, and it's like a new family member. Like I have this network of great people I've met through just my friends. And I think music draws like-minded people together. So
Oh, sure.
so that also helps. So now, when you got into live event production, what was your goal with that? Like, what are you working towards now as far as that side of the business? Like, where do you want to end up with that?
I'd like to end up kind of more of the maybe like a production or tour manager side of things, or even just kind of getting involved with like artist management, just really working with, the actual talent, if you will. Because I just feel like there's a lot of growth and opportunity in that area. And plus, when you kind of are able to see the business on both sides, it's a very vital skill to have.
Absolutely. Because you got to be, when you're promoting yourself, and I can speak from experience with this, you need to be, I mean, if you're doing it right, you're a businessman or woman, and you need to treat the whole thing from the ground up like a business, and you need to market it, and you need to in promotion and merchandise. And when you understand that, it allows you to have the musician street cred, if you will, to communicate with somebody on the other end, like a John Petrucci or a Mike Mangini. Like, you understand a little bit about what their experience is like. Maybe not the identical of John Petrucci, but you have a rough idea, and you can kind of help.
Right.
And that's a good way to relate.
Yeah, and it also helps to just not even on like just a smaller level. Like if if you're doing a show, like on Broadway in Nashville, and something's kind of going on, and someone's asking you something, or like the band isn't too sure how to navigate a certain situation. If you have experience and can be a part of the solution, that helps out a lot as well, because that's also like, oh, hey, this person knows what they're doing, like we'll let them handle it.
Well, who would you want to work with talent wise, Zach? Like anybody that you think, oh, I got to work with them if
I would say, honestly, if I could get the chance to do like Paul McCartney's tour or something like that, just because I'm a Beatles fan, and I think that'd be just a very cool experience to work with a legend like that.
That's next level. That's like, there's like a level of musicians now, these all-time legends that I don't know if there's, and maybe they didn't know this then, but I don't know if there's anybody now that's going to end up being a Stevie Wonder or a Paul McCartney or an Elton John. I think about that. I think about that a lot when I look at some of these artists. Is like, it's so time stamped to now that I don't know that these are timeless songs. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, to me, like, I look at a guy like Bruno Mars, and that guy, he puts on a show, man.
Oh, he's great.
He can sing, he can dance. He's got a great band, and like, I've yet to see his show, but everyone who's seen it, like my sister saw him at a festival, and she was like, "Oh my God, it was the best show I've ever seen in my life."
Wow.
And she's kind of a, she's got a very interesting, musical palette, but she definitely appreciates a live show, and she knows a good show when she sees one.
Yeah, they're at the top of their game. He's a great musician too, hell of a drummer.
I'm glad we're talking about that. So what do you guys think, like in your honest opinion, makes like for a good show? Something that people are like, oh man, you know what? The one that has your sister saying, that Bruno Mars, show was the best one she's ever seen. What do you think? What has to be a part of that?
I think what has to be a part of it, obviously, is number one, like, entertainment. Like, it can't be boring, obviously. But the second thing I would guess is connection. Like, are you connecting with your fans? Are you all together in this? Is it not? Because if it's just like, audience and band, it's like, if there's kind of a separation there, it's not going to have the impact. But if you can, like, if the entertainer, if they can kind of reach out, grab the audience by the balls and just take command, boom. Look at Freddie Mercury when they did Live Aid. Perfect example of that. He just went out there, Queen rocks it, and it's the most iconic performance ever.
Nice.
That to me is what makes that. When you guys can, when I say you guys, I mean like when everybody is on the same energy level. They're in the same frame of mind with it. It's just an experience. That's how I would describe it.
Sweet.
Well, that's like, I don't know if you've ever seen Meshuggah, Zach, but
I haven't.
that's like when they connect through the rhythm and the music, and they get people moving and they keep them moving. And every band has a different way of that connection. And for me, what I think is a great production is, like, first and foremost, your sound. I mean, that has to be.
Oh, well, of course, yes.
I mean, well, but for the reason I mention that is because a lot of, there's a lot of large scale concert acts now that it's not so much about the sound, because when you're playing in a stadium, like you're playing the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, and there's 80,000 seats in there, and you're doing in the rounds, you've got the stadium delay going around messing with you. You've got all this shit going on, and I'm not saying everybody is using backing tracks, but the reality is a lot of that popular music that's not guitar and drum and bass based, okay, like non-musical instrument based music, they have to do it to the backing tracks and have everything kind of coming through, and you can't really tell the difference between what's the track and what's the live vocal, because it flows up and down through the whole time, where it's like woven into the live sound. So like a guy like myself or Zach, musicians, music professionals will hear that, and it's like, why did I spend all this money to come see this? Which is why I love seeing, bands in like a mid-sized place, like the Fillmore in Philadelphia is wonderful. The Tower Theater is great. Like these places where you maybe fit 1,300 to 5,000 people, because if you're a good band and you play in a 1,300 seat venue, there's no way to really fake that, because the people in the back can see what you're doing. So, the sound is important. I love the lighting, is a big piece for me. I love now that the technology has gotten to a point with LED lighting that, the throw distances are incredible, and they can launch light, 100 yards in the air if they want. And it's the timing, because of the LEDs, you're not turning a bulb on and turning a bulb off, and the fade and all that shit. It's instant, and the wireless technology makes you be able to get lights in places you never were able to get them before. So I when you see a show like what Dream Theater did, where they have this multimedia experience where you got cameras on the stage to show what's going on with the band, and then like you see what's going on with Mangini, and then there's little animations that pop in there, and then they're moving around. Like this was a really different. I was explaining to Daryl how this was a very different Dream Theater setup for them. Like they've had a lot of different stages in the past couple of years, and this was really cool because you had that backstage where James is running around, and Jordan comes up with his keyboard and he's shredding, and the guitar in front of people. I love that. Like that is in Dream Theater. Like if they can connect with their fans with all of that complexity of that music, like that's a skill that they had to develop over time. Just like they're playing, like they didn't just wake up one day and they're, it's the performance you see now, that you're seeing the results of a hardworking crew with people like Zach, putting in tireless. I mean, for you guys listening, we got down to the tower, I want to say maybe 1:45, and everybody was working. Everyone was working everywhere. And the tour manager, Rick, who we've given a shout out to before, Rick is the commander of that shit.
Yes,
and he
is.
He is a great leader, and Rick was the man. And it didn't matter whose friend we were. It's time for business, So.
Oh yeah.
And I have nothing but respect for that, and that kind of management style, because that's the reason why the Dream Theater shows are so fucking good, is because you've got a great band combined with a incredible world-class team behind them, and they're working 12, 14, 16-hour days. Like when we left after hanging around for an hour with you guys probably didn't leave. You probably had bus call at what, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, I think it was.
So you've got these guys that are working goddamn near around the clock to put on a great performance for you. So I want to, I just want to make sure everybody understands that, like how much work you guys did for that show. So can you talk to us a little bit about what what that's like. Like, walk me through a day. Walk me through that day. Like, what time you starting? You get on the tour bus the night before at the show.
So let me actually, I'll kind of back it up, because before that show even starts, I'm actually kind of doing stuff ahead of time before I even get there. So what I'll do is I'll get a hold of whoever the promoter rep is, and I'll email them our writer. And for those of you who don't know what a writer is, it lists out all the band needs for food, for dressing rooms, for catering, etc. So I give them that ahead of time. So I say, hey, listen, we want breakfast at this time, lunch at this time, dinner at this time, and here's what I want for this dressing room. Here's what I want for the singer's dressing room. Here's what I need for the crew bus for food. Here's what I need for the band bus for food, etc.
Mountain Dew.
Yeah, gotta have the dew.
So I do that ahead of time, so that way, I make sure everyone's fed. And that's important, because if no one's getting fed, then no one's gonna, be happy.
If no one's getting fed,
yeah, exactly.
Ain't
nobody wants to be hangry.
Ain't nobody shred.
No fed, no shred. There
That's
you go.
Right. Put that on a T-shirt.
Oh my God, that'd be good, right? That's $1 million idea right there.
Sit right there.
But then, for me, when I start my day, it's I walk in there. I'll meet the hospitality person of the building. We'll just, figure out where dressing rooms are going to go, production offices, etc. And then when everybody's doing their stuff on stage, which is led by my production manager, TJ, I'm kind of in the back just making sure that, stuff is set up. The dressing room situation is taken care of. I'm setting up, our wardrobe, making sure that James has his thermoses clean, that John Bertucci's got his practice rig set up, and that everything is in place and ready to go before the band shows up. So that way I'm not, sort of having to take care of the pre-stuff while they're there, because once they arrive, I am all focused on whatever they need for the most part until the show starts, that is.
So does the crew arrive before the band?
Yeah, we're there early in the morning. Like we all travel together.
So what time did you guys get there that day?
We usually started our load-ins at 9 a.m., but we were there like a couple hours before that.
Have you ever had any? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Have you ever had any moments where like you've gotten there and you've gone through all your lists, everything's itemized, you've talked to the hospitality person, and you've gotten there and it's not to your liking? Like, what happens then? Like,
I kind of try to avoid that, because what I usually do is they'll send me a menu, and I'll be like, well, this is, not good. Let's try to, make it more variety for everybody. But if there's not anything to my liking, what it is just we just swap and get the right thing. That's it. And I usually have a person called a runner. So I'll give them some cash to go out and buy, whatever is missing, or if I need to, or if it's like, if Mike Mangini texts me and says, hey, I need Listerine. Okay, cool. Here's some money. Go out, buy Listerine. Then, I'll have it for him when he shows up.
Sweet.
Got to take care of your people. That's,
that's awesome. Man.
Happy team. That's
awesome.
what it all goes to. And also, no job is too small. I noticed on the Dream Theater crew, everybody's involved and invested in everybody's excellence. So, everybody knows their role and they execute it is exactly as you would expect, based on seeing how that show goes. And it's evident that it's airtight because of, like I said, because of how great the shows go. So once you're loaded in and, the rooms are set, what are you doing up until doors?
Basically, I'm just kind of floating around between the needs of my production manager, or if the crew needs anything, because every day is different, and things can kind of just arise out of nowhere. Like, should there be a situation where, like, oh, hey, like this thing broke, we need to go out and get a replacement or something like that. So it's just sort of being available and on call, and just wherever a situation arises that, there's a problem, just being a part of the solution and making sure the solution happens.
That's a great outlook. So I guess where every Guitar Center and Home Depot is near every venue in the country, huh?
For the most part, yeah. But a lot of it's actually kind of more like, sometimes I'll get text messages from the band guys saying, oh, hey, I ran out of this. Is it possible if we can get this? So, yeah, that's no problem. We'll just go to like a, CVS or a Walgreens, kind of get like, if you need like mouthwash or, shampoo, conditioner, stuff like that, just to kind of, make sure that they get what they want.
Yeah, so they can keep going. Because I imagine you want to keep your routine going when you're on the road, especially when you got a high pressure, high intensity job like they have. And one of the things that was really evident when we spent our time with Mike Mangini is that man gives 150,000% to everything he does. And whether he's working on football with his family or developing some new ingenious method of teaching, he's going to give it his all. So you want to make sure that guy has his Listerine so he can focus, because like he shouldn't. Not that, so he's so special, he gets special treatment, but when you're working as a team and everybody's doing their role, there's no shame in helping somebody do that. There's nothing like because you're a part of something that, like I said earlier, you're impacting people's emotional lives. Every night you stop on tour, you're changing people's day or week or month or year.
Let's just get down to brass tacks, man. Listerine is important, bro. There are a couple people I know that aren't using it, and they should be using it.
Listen, every man has to stay fresh.
There's some pallets out there that need some peppering with some Listerine. I'm telling you. So
just make sure you floss. Just get the back. Get those molars, man.
Yep.
For sure. Got to thaw that thing out, man.
Seriously.
So what's your day like once you so the fans at the meet and greets? That's always Dream Theater has a great connection with their fans, and they have some really passionate fans. I would imagine that can be a handful. How do you go about at the meet and greets keeping things going? And explain to people what that's like and how the volume of that. I've been following Dream Theater since 2006, and I've been to every stop of every tour since. And I've been a part of some of the meet and greets as a fan, and I know how long they are, and they're doing them in music stores and stuff. So talk to us a little bit about what that meet and greet process is like, and how do you deal with somebody who may be a little too excited or overzealous? How do you handle that tactfully and so that they still have a good experience, but you have to keep things going because Rick is on the stopwatch somewhere?
Yeah, so the way that works is so earlier in the day I'll get with our meet and greet girl Brittany, and she'll show me where the meet and greet's going to happen. So that way when it's time to go, I can just walk the band. I know the path, so there's no Spinal Tap moment where you're like, oh hey, do we go this way, do we go that way, is it this way, I think we're down this hallway, is it this, no we got to turn around right here, ask the janitor for directions. You don't want to have any of that kind of stuff. So once it's time to go, I actually my dinner bell per se is actually a box of Tic Tacs. So I'll go into the dressing rooms, I'll shake it, and they know, okay, it's time to go to meet and greet. So that is the call, if you will, is the Tic Tac shake, as I call it,
baby.
No, seriously. Like, yeah, I bring the little box, shake it, I dish out the Tic Tacs, make sure everyone's got fresh breath, and then it's...
What flavor is it? Is it?
Yeah, what kind of Tic Tacs? Breaking news on Blabbermouth, Dream Theater.
I gotta know, man. Is it the orange citrus? What are we doing?
I do the wintergreen.
Okay, that's a classic. Orange citrus is my candy flavor.
Man.
Yes, exactly. Stick with a classic. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's it. I'm all there.
That's good. Yeah, breaking news: Dream Theater eats wintergreen Tic Tacs.
Wintergreen, baby.
So yeah. Next thing you know, we're gonna get a boxes of Tic Tacs at the next leg of the tour.
Wintergreen
That'd
and
be great.
Listerine.
Well, you'd have the Everyman podcast to thank for that.
Sweet.
Nice.
But to continue on that, so then once so it's Rick and I leading the charge to meet and greet to bring the guys. So Brittany will be waiting there to give the pre-rundown to everybody, let them know what the rules are. So everyone's kind of been briefed, which actually makes it a little bit easier for myself and Rick getting in there.
I'm sorry, who is Brittany?
Brittany is our meet and greet girl.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brittany, the meet and greet girl.
Exactly. Shout out.
And TJ.
And TJ. Yes, absolutely. Can't forget about TJ. And then, the first part of the meet and greet is they, every person who gets a picture with the band, and then after that is when they sign things and they do a little bit of an interaction with the fans. And for the most part, the fans are really cool. The only thing I kind of tell them is like, hey, just, no handshakes, just fist bumps. That's kind of like the only thing that the band gets particular about. And also we don't want people, busting out their cell phones, taking pictures of them, during the meet and greet as well. But if I ever encounter a fan that is a little bit of a chatterbox, it's, you just got to let them know, like, hey, just, we got to keep the line moving. And I know you want to talk, but we have other people that are waiting. So you just got to, handle it real cool. And for the most part, the fans, they're happy to be there.
Yeah,
and,
it's like their their big night out a lot of times. I mean, it was when I was doing it.
Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, the band guys, they talk with the fans, young and old alike, and it's actually kind of cool when we bring them out and there's like this line full of people and they just explode with excitement, like this big big ovation, everyone's clapping, cheering, and it's cool to see.
It is, and I can say, I've known John for a number of years, John Petrucci now, and I've been out with him at multiple places, as just civilians having a drink, and people come up and he gives everyone their time, and it's always,
absolutely.
I mean, I've seen him get practically mobbed, and just gives everyone their time, is super respectful. So, if you guys are out there and you see John Petrucci, you see Mike Mangini, just they're just like people. Just be respectful, go up, say hello, but just treat them like people.
Dude, we gotta talk about that.
So we're laughing. So I want to talk about the handshake thing. So
we gotta talk about that.
So Daryl Campbell, my man, I
remember this.
Daryl is a big man. He's a former NFL defensive tackle. Okay, now the funny thing about this, Zach, is that we just had Daryl's former teammate and fellow defensive tackle Tank Johnson on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
So if you recall, Tank was a fucking monster. Okay.
Oh, I remember.
Wonderful guy, but a ferocious player. Okay.
Yeah.
I asked Tank to tell our listeners what Daryl was like on the football field, and Tank told a story that he said he's heavy-handed. Right? Daryl's heavy-handed in everything he does, and he says we'd be after practice. You have a full practice, and Daryl comes over to shake your hand, and he shakes the shit out of you, and like you feel like you need to like warm up before he shakes your hand. And this is Tank Johnson saying,
right,
Daryl shakes my hand too hard. Okay, we get out of the car, we're walking to the Tower Theater. I text Rick, I say, hey boss, we're here. He goes, okay, meet us at the bus. We walk over there, we see you. That's how we meet. Jordan Rudess comes walking up the way. Now Jordan was meeting with Jordan Rudess, the keyboard player, the classical pianist, one of the most talented, if not the best pianist in the world. Okay, is coming up the walkway, and he thought we were there for him because Jordan was getting ready to do a podcast himself, and we had some gear with us. He's like, "Oh, are you here for me?" I shake his hand. I say, "Hey, Jordan, nice to see you again. Hey, how you doing? Good. Daryl goes in, and I saw my life flash before my eyes because I see him going for the handshake. Yes, and I know what's about to happen, and I see Daryl going because Daryl he's a loving man, but he's so fucking strong. He'll just give you a hug, and you're 3 feet in the air, and you don't know what happened, and you just can't do anything about it. You're not going anywhere, so you just do it. I see him going in, and he grabs Jordan's hand and shakes the shit out of it. And Jordan goes, "Oh," and he's like, "Whoa!" Like, and I'm like, "Oh my god, oh Jordan, I'm so sorry." Like he's excited. I don't know. He's excited to meet you. I really don't know what to say right here. And then like, thank God he didn't. He was fine. But when you got Tank Johnson telling you shake hands too hard, and then Daryl comes in for the closer, whoo.
No,
it was great, and then we were joking about it later.
When I met Daryl, when I met you, Daryl, it was just kind of like a, hey man, like how you doing, like real casual handshake, just like whatever, nice little pop and everything. But then after we were all hanging out, I thought you were gonna knock the wind out of me when you gave me the back.
Oh yeah,
just like,
he gave you the bro.
Boom!
Yeah, he gave you the casual, and you got the bro. Yeah, when you get the
I had to go see a chiropractor that week because my spine got realigned.
Dude, here's the thing. Here's the issue. So, like, what made the concert for me is, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to this too, Zach, is that it's not just a connection with the fans. It's not just the synergy that you have with the fans and the artists. Just basically sharing their gift with the world. It's them as people. So, like, Zach, dude,
absolutely.
you're fucking awesome, man. So, like, the meet and greet, like.
You were killing.
Meeting you there, and then going in, and we sat downstairs and we talked, and then like Mangini came out, but Jordan comes up. Jordan's like, he gives me a hug now. He's like, yeah, I could. I don't want you to break my hands if I need him. Like, you know what I mean? But like, it's everybody. It's the people. It's all love, man. And like, that's the stuff that really moves me. The fact that you guys are unbelievable artists. The fact that you back, every group that you're with, including Dream Theater, is amazing. But it's just the fact that you are just an unbelievable person. And to me, that speaks volumes. Mike Mangini is a family man, and he is unbelievable. Jordan is passionate about his craft, but he cares about people. And, Petrucci, the same exact way. And everybody, every member of that group is the same exact way. And, if I'm you, if I have any type of footprint with that band, I'm just falling in love with them. And it's just because of the type of people they are. And that's just aside from the talent, which is world. So, yeah.
Yeah. They're great guys. It's really cool to work with them because, you see this, just the virtuosity that they bring on stage night after night, but they're just regular guys. Yeah. And they care so much about what they do. It's awesome.
Yeah, and you can really see that when you talk to John about barbecue. Like he's a guy like I'm a big barbecue guy. So like we at the show we're talking chicken and beef. You know what I mean? Like and like he loves talking about that just as much as he wants to talk to you about guitar. It's
dude, I was watching that the other night.
Franks and beans.
What the hell's Brett Favre doing here? I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Oh man, Cosmic Canoe coming full circle with the Brett Favre.
I remember seeing that movie. I think I was like 9 years old when that came out, and my cousin took me and my best friend in elementary school, Jamie Green, to go see it. And when you see it as a kid, you're laughing at the part where he zips his dick up in it, and you're like, oh, it's funny. This is Franks and Beans. But then like I watched it as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, I saw this when I was 9 years old. I missed like all these jokes.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's always good to revisit. That's how Austin Powers is too. You go back and watch that. It's unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
My gosh. The Austin Powers franchise is fucking hysterical, top to bottom.
It's
so funny.
They had a plan for a little bit. I saw an interview because Mike Myers is pretty like reclusive, and he's kind of been off the radar for a while. He wanted to do a fourth movie, like a fourth, fifth, and sixth, where they retold the entire story from the perspective of Dr. Evil.
Oh boy!
And redid the whole movie, like, and surprisingly, that the studios didn't want to do that. But the rumor is that they're working on a fourth one now, which because he's been doing some Dr. Evil bits, which I think. The world's ready for more Austin Powers.
Yeah. And sharks.
But my only with that is like I just hope it doesn't fall into the same hole that the second Zoolander and the second Dumb and Dumber
and the second Anchorman.
Right, which was because they came out too late, so no one was like
no one wanted it anymore.
No, and
at that point you're just messing with everybody's nostalgia.
Right, like for me, like I hope to God they never make like a second Big Lebowski because there's no reason to.
Dude, you don't bring that into the universe, man.
Mm-hmm.
Don't. I listen.
You know what was one exception? One exception to that is Super Troopers 2. I
haven't seen that yet.
It killed me. I thought it was hilarious, just as funny as the first one, in my opinion. Great.
Okay,
every man approved. 2 every man's up. A few more questions here before we wrap up, my man. I wanted to find out how do you stay sane? I know you're telling us about how you do such a great job taking care of the team and taking care of all your responsibilities, taking care of the fans, making new connections, making new friends. How do you take care of yourself? How do you stay sane? and how do you stay connected, with the people you care about most? What's your plan for that?
So I'll break it down in 3 different kind of categories here. Physically, the way I take care of myself is just, drinking a lot of water, making sure that, I take my vitamins. If I can sneak a workout in, like just, doing a plank in the office or like some push-ups, some squats, whatever. But, on the off days, I'll definitely hit a gym and just kind of, release some stress there because I'm big into working out. I've been working out since I was like 13. And it's my go-to stress reliever, which is important. And also, if I'm not in shape on the road, that's a big problem in itself, because if I can't physically do my job, then I'm letting a lot of people down, and I will not allow that. As for emotionally, man, I have a couple playlists that I've made on my Spotify, so I put those on. It's kind of funny. This is gonna be I have no shame in admitting this. Love me some Brian McKnight. Love me some Seal. I throw it in the office. Gets everything
from
kind of
a
going.
rose, baby.
Dude, listen, that album is fantastic.
Bro, I was just listening to I've Been Waiting for You in the car like 2 days ago. Come on.
Yeah.
Seal 4, great album.
Come on.
Great album.
Listen, let me tell you something about the Everyman podcast, Zach. Okay? Let me break it down for you, bro. We got nothing but respect and admiration for one Seal. Okay?
Oh yeah.
One word,
absolutely.
one name, Seal.
So, fun fact, real quick, my uncle did a one-off gig with him back in the 90s a long time ago.
Nice.
Yeah, he's the bass player. He was living out in L.A., and he got a call to do an audition with him. So he went down to the gig, played a bunch of songs with Seal. He unfortunately didn't get it, but he said he was the coolest guy to work with.
And let me tell you something. Respectfully, that guy fucks, okay? He's a Hall of Famer. Like him, he's up there probably with John Mayer and Prince and like fucking Gene Simmons. Like it's not even
Derek Jeter as well.
Yeah, it's not even it's not even close.
There's
so that's a great
the meet and greet and then the meet and greet.
Right,
like,
right. There's a meet and greet.
Is.
Yeah. And that's it.
I'll tell you what though, because I mean, and you guys will appreciate this being Philly boys. One of the best shows I've ever seen was back in 2015. It was Boys to Men with the Nashville Symphony. You want to talk about like romance in the air?
Oh yeah, dude. You know how many babies were made that night? I'm serious.
Oh my god.
I bet you there's 1,000 kids that were conceived that night. Guaranteed.
Dude, have you guys seen the movie Long Shot? Have you heard about
it? Which one is that?
No.
Is that? I'm drawing a blank. Which one was Long Shot?
It just came out. Charlize Theron and
no, I haven't seen that yet. I know what you're talking
about. And Seth Rogen.
It's Seth Rogen, dude, hilarious, and Boyz II Men's in it. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's amazing.
They should be in more movies.
Perfect.
That's a great segue to something I wanted to ask you about. Now, obviously, I don't want to give away any state secrets here, but you told me that you spent a little time working with Justin Timberlake.
I did. Yes,
now, JT, I'll admit it. Okay, I personally purchased 2 NSYNC albums for myself from the CD store, The Wall.
Money well spent.
On purpose. Okay? I did that.
No shame.
No. I'm just putting that out there. I'm coming out as an NSYNC fan.
That's it.
So I mean, who would have thought that he would have this incredible career after having that incredible career at such a young age? But Justin Timberlake, I watched his Netflix special he had maybe 2 years ago. It was something about the Justin Timberlake and the Tennessee Boys, or
the 2020 experience.
Yes,
with the Tennessee Kids.
With the Tennessee Kids. That if you haven't seen that, that is one of the best concert films out there right now. He is so good and so talented, and you'd be like, "Oh, well, he's just a singer." Yeah, well, he plays guitar great too. Oh, yeah, well, he's just a dancer. No, he's like a choreographer, a dancer, a singer, an actor. He could do a comedian. Man. Oh, and he's like borderline a pro golfer. Like, I got like whatever Justin Timberlake is doing, I would want to know what he's doing because obviously this guy knows what he's doing. So
Yeah.
what was your experience with Justin Timberlake like?
It was great. Definitely very memorable, and I'll never forget it. I mean, to be a part of a tour that big with an artist like him it was almost kind of like, how did this happen?
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and as for like as a man, it was just like, it just added more professionalism to what I do. And the funny thing is, and I haven't really told a lot of people like how it happened, and the way it happened, I attribute it to relationships, because you never know what kind of friendship you develop with somebody could lead to something way bigger. And the way it all happened was, I was on a break from the Luke Bryan tour for 2 months. So during that time, I usually do some other work with a company called Rhino Staging, and they take care of the labor for a lot of the acts that happen at the Bridgestone Arena or whatever else is going on around Nashville, whether it's corporate or national touring things. So I get a phone call, hey, do you want to work this show at the Bridgestone on May 9th? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Just, work for work. So then I was like, oh, I wonder who's playing. Well, it's Justin Timberlake. And I was like, oh, holy shit, this is going to be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked in there that morning, just, ready to go, business as usual. And side note, my experience at the time was with video production. So I was very kind of savvy with that side of touring. So I get thrown in with their video department, and I'm working with them. And the crew chief named Johnny Moore comes up to me. He's like, hey, are you Zac Rossi? And I go, yeah, that's me. Nice to meet you. He goes, hey, I'm Johnny Moore. Yeah, I heard a lot about you. And I was like, oh, that's cool. From who? Oh, this guy, John Preston. And I was like, oh, okay. And I knew John from doing another tour with him. So we just kind of started just, shooting the breeze for a little bit, just getting to work this and that, whatever. About halfway through the loadout, Johnny pulls me aside and he goes, so listen, how committed are you to the current tour that you're on? And I'm like, I'm on a break right now. I mean, what's going on? And he goes, well, we need to fill in a spot on our crew, and we're looking for people. And somebody, like I said, told us you were going to be working here today. I've been watching you work. I got a face to the name. Are you interested in possibly joining this tour? And I'm just kind of thinking to myself, this can't be real. But I like it. I like how it's making me, excited for the opportunity. So I was like, hey, if it works out, great. But if it doesn't, it's nice to be acknowledged for that.
Nice.
As the afternoon is going on, I'm getting pulled over more and more by John. And he's like, listen, this is actually probably going to happen. So we need to know if you really want to do this. And I told him, yeah, I would love to do this. So later that afternoon, they came to me with dates and a contract. And I signed it. I told the Luke Bryan camp what had happened, and they were super supportive about saying, hey, listen, go ahead and do that. Like, whatever you can give us for the rest of your time is great. But yeah, we wish you the best. Go on and do it. And last July, I got on a plane, went over to Europe with the Justin Timberlake tour, and did that for the past 8 months.
Nice.
So what can you tell us?
It was crazy.
What can you tell us about what kind of operation he runs and what kind of guy he is? You don't have to go into any details, but just so people know, like, what kind of guy he is.
So he's a great guy, and what's funny is when I met him, he was just, hey, thanks for being here. He actually said to me, hey, welcome to the circus, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I mean, this is hopefully it's a fun circus, kind of thing. But no, he was super cool, and it was actually kind of funny because I don't get starstruck. The only person I've gotten starstruck from was Peyton Manning, because he kind of just was there in the same room with me. I was like, holy shit, you're Peyton Manning. This is kind of cool. But when I met him, I was just like, hey, how are you? Employee-employer introduction. But when he walked away, I was like, son of a bitch, I used to dance to Bye 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 to you in high school, and now I'm working with you. This is
Nice.
fucking crazy, you know.
That's cool.
But his organization, it's basically do your job, just do your gig, and that's what he's all about. And he's a very intense performer, and when I say intense, is he is so focused before he hits that stage. He gets in his little, like, you know, I guess I would say it's an artist mode from like the few times that I've seen it. And when he gets out there, it is boom. He is just all in, and it's really inspiring to see, because, you know, he is just he gives the audience their money's worth.
Sweet.
Absolutely. And Zac, I got to commend you on the way that you treat people, the way you treated us. You know, you didn't know us from Adam, and you treated us like old friends, and that really shows. And you have a benefit right now of you're surrounding yourself with true masters of their craft. And I know for a fact that you're learning and you're soaking that all in, because I know you're that kind of guy. And I wish you nothing but the best. I hope you continue, you know, growing as a professional, growing as a young man, and you know, getting everything that you want out of life. And I think
appreciate it. Thank you.
I really see. I see big things. I see big things ahead for you, my friend. And
yeah, man.
I wanted to give you an opportunity. Is there any? I know you're on social media. Is there anywhere that people can find you, keep up with you on what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and all that stuff. So if you just kind of search my name, that's the best way to find me. So I don't like, that's kind of all I really have.
So you're on Instagram and you're on Twitter. Well,
yes,
Zac, it has been an absolute pleasure. Stay
Thanks,
safe
guys.
on the road, man.
The man.
I will do my best to stay safe. Yeah, it's gonna be a very busy next couple months. We're heading to Europe on Tuesday, and it's gonna be an adventure over there. That's for sure.
We're gonna catch up with you when you're in Europe for a little correspondence from Europe. So we'll see you soon.
Man.